Welcome back to this live stream. Welcome back to this channel, actually. I was trying to start this live stream a couple times and then internet kept interrupting me. So anyway, welcome back to One in a Million channel. My name is Eunice Chan and I'm really excited to have you guys. In today's video, we are talking about what to do when you feel misaligned, or rather the one thing to do when you feel misaligned. And I feel very passionately about this one topic because alignment is something that I work towards, I strive towards, I check my alignment daily, and it's just this one feeling that makes me feel like I'm walking on sunshine, and it makes me feel like I am really home. Like that's what the feeling really is. It's like I'm just being so true to myself, I'm being so aligned with myself. And there's nothing else that I feel, there's nothing else outside of myself that I feel. I only identify with, what I am here for and who I am. It's the most amazing feeling. And of course, every now and then we have these moments, sometimes we wake up on the wrong foot, or we receive bad news, or we all of a sudden we feel like we're just kind of knocked out of our alignment. And in those moments are so critical to helping ourselves to navigate through these places of misalignment, these places of feeling just not ourselves, like outside of ourselves, so that we can move back into this feeling of alignment. And I want to talk about what actually happens when we're misaligned. Because I think the understanding of it, like when we can actually reframe misalignment, when we can reframe how to perceive alignment, then we can actually much more effectively move back into it. So the very first thing that I notice usually when I feel misaligned is there's just so many fear-based thoughts. And it really doesn't matter what kind of fear-based thoughts you have. They're generated out of a feeling of contraction in your body, a feeling of scarcity, a feeling of running out of time, disappointing someone, disappointing yourself, feeling like you probably have not done enough, you are not enough, not worthy, and all those feelings. They're very fear-based. It just makes you feel like you're not enough, and there's no matter what you do, it will never really measure up. And this is the feeling of not being aligned with our true selves, because our true selves are the most resourceful beings on the planet. It is infinite creativity. It is infinite knowing. It is infinite resourcefulness. And when we disengage with that part of ourselves, we subscribe to all the beliefs that maybe other people are giving us. We subscribe to other beliefs that do not align with who we truly are. And I think this is what happens when we feel misaligned. So having said that, alignment is really the true goal, right? It really is the thing that we want to strive towards every single day, so that we can feel more of that every day. We can feel more aligned to ourselves. And when we are in that state of alignment, then everything just kind of flows easily. The only thing that happens when we are in a place of misalignment is the knowing that, darn it, I am not in my ideal state. Now, what can I do to get back into it? How can I most quickly get back into it? How can I just move past this misalignment and snap back into alignment? How can I just push this out of the way? Because I know I'm not being my true self. I know I'm not being aligned to myself. I know I'm not connected to my higher self. Okay, now I just need to connect back with my higher self. And there's this huge fear around a feeling of misalignment. So what used to happen to me was when I started to feel disconnected with my true self, I started to feel this judgment upon myself. How could you allow yourself to be in this place? You got to snap back into it. You're not in the place where you want to be. You got to move back into alignment. And there was this pressure that I was putting onto myself that was actually not serving me, because I was rushing myself to get back into alignment. Even though the alignment was the place that I wanted to be, I was trying to force and pressure myself to move back into it, which really, in the end of the day, was not serving me, because I was giving myself so much pressure. I was trying to do everything to make sure that my energy is back in place. I would make sure like my emotions are back in place. I would just do all the energy work to make sure that I have to get back into it as soon as possible. Like, even just saying it, you could probably hear the pressure that is in my voice. So I realized that there was so much fear that I held around misalignment. It's almost like, oh no, if I get into a place of misalignment, then I must have done something wrong. Then it must mean that I don't understand my energy well enough. Then it must mean that I am like so disconnected with my true self. I'm so disconnected with myself that I messed up again. Like, that's kind of the feeling. I've messed up. And when we carry that feeling, it's like, that's not of a loving quality thought, right? That's another layer of a fear-based thought. That's another layer of a judgmental thought that we're trying to stack on top of what we were already feeling. So not only were we misaligned in the first place, and then we try to combat that, we try to push that away with more misaligned feeling thoughts to force ourselves back into alignment. So obviously that's not going to work. So for a very long time, I have tried to make myself go back into alignment. And there was one thing that I missed. And the one thing, this is the secret for me, because once I have changed this thing, it completely just reorganized and shifted my energy around this understanding, is that misalignment isn't entirely such a bad thing after all. Because when I stopped judging myself for being misaligned, right? Because we have this fear around misalignment. We have this judgment around, like, how could I be misaligned? It must be that I don't understand this energy thing well enough. It must mean that I haven't connected with myself enough. When we drop this judgment around the state of misalignment, and when we just fully come into terms with it, right? When we completely, fully accept and surrender into the experience of misalignment, and we're like, okay, you know what? Yes, I feel misaligned. I feel disconnected with who I truly am, but you know what? That's okay. And everything's going to be fine. I know I'm going to find my alignment again soon. What can I learn from this? What is it that I need to hear from this experience of my misalignment, such that this is the message that I need to hear, that I can only hear from my moments of misalignment? What is the aligned message that I need to hear through my misalignment? Is there a way I can handle my moments of misalignment, my moments of disconnection in a very aligned way? And turns out there is that way. So instead of managing my misalignment with misaligned actions, right? I realized that even when I'm in a state of misalignment, I can still manage it. I can still help myself, soothe myself, nurture myself with an aligned way. And from there on, I realized that, oh my gosh, like I've opened a whole new way of operating. I've opened so many new doors. Why? Because I know that I cannot escape moments of misalignment. And instead of just waiting it out, instead of just resisting it, instead of pushing it away, I realized that I can find very aligned ways to handle my misalignment. I can love myself through it. I can soothe myself through it. I can comfort myself through it. And from there, it's like all the knots that I have tied around this, all the kinks that I have in my body, all the feelings of tension and contraction, all of a sudden they just melt away, because I was no longer fighting it. I was no longer resisting it, right? And what better way than just surrendering yourself into the experience of, you know what, this is just this is actually out of my control. I don't want to fight this anymore. And when I surrendered was when I received the message. And this brings me to my next point, which is there are certain things that we can only hear, we can only learn through moments of misalignment. And until we are in that place, we cannot truly understand the lesson. So I'm going to give you an example. Like there's self-love that I needed to learn. And obviously I needed to learn it because I didn't know it, right? I didn't know how to treat myself with self-love. And so the moments in which I was placed, the circumstances in which I was placed to learn this lesson was a moment of misalignment, a moment of disconnected with my true self. I was being harsh to myself. I was judging myself. I was not letting myself rest. I was sabotaging myself. I was sabotaging my dreams. I was giving away my time, people pleasing, and all those like not self-loving things that I was doing. And through these moments of just being so disconnected with my true self, I came to learn the power of self-love, the transformative power of what loving myself can do for me. And I could only learn that when I surrender into the experience instead of fighting it, right? And so these are the times when you feel misaligned and when you feel most disconnected is a time where you really need to tune in and ask yourself, all right, I know I feel really disconnected right now, but what message is there for me that I could not otherwise have learned or have heard or have received if I were not in this situation? Is it a lesson of love? Is it a lesson of forgiveness? Is it a lesson of letting go, right? And from there, you're going to realize, oh my gosh, this is such a big piece of gem, right? Because I learned to see this as a lesson. I learned to see this as an opportunity to handle my misalignments in a very aligned way. So one last thing that I also wanted to add, and this completely changed my perception of alignment, which is, and this also led me to no longer judging my moments of misalignment, because like I honestly don't care if I label my day, if I divide my day into aligned moments and misaligned moments. Like it honestly would not matter anymore. Why? Because in the moments where I feel misaligned, it does not mean that I am absolutely misaligned. It does not mean that I'm 100% misaligned. So what makes a difference here is that I realize that even in my moments of misalignment, I can still find alignment. There's still a part of me that is aligned. There's still a part of me that is listening, right? And when I realized that this alignment definition is not a black or white switch, like it's not like, oh, I'm either fully aligned or fully misaligned and there's really nothing in between. I realized that there is actually another way of perceiving this and navigating through this, whereby I can find my way through alignment through my misalignments. And I don't have to sentence myself all the way on the far end of like being super misaligned in order for me to walk my way back into like connecting with my true self. So if alignment is not black or white and it's not a binary thing, that means that I can find myself anywhere in between, right? And so if I were holding the spectrum, on one side it's alignment, like, you know, feeling connected with myself, having loving thoughts, feeling relaxed, feeling joy, right? Feeling like super abundant in my being. So on one end, I'm feeling this, and then on the other end, it is like super disconnection, just fear-based thoughts, like, you know, just worrying about everything, anxiety, just panicking, losing myself, abandoning myself, and all those things. And that is on the other end of the spectrum. I realize that I can find myself anywhere in between, and at any point I find myself, I can always move back closer and closer to alignment. So I'm not sentencing myself, like I'm not judging myself. Oh, you can only be here or here. Because the chances of me being all the way like, super aligned, well, that's not 100% of the time. And if I don't meet that, if I don't find myself right here, then I'm going to have a really hard time because I'm going to find myself on the opposite end, right? So I realized that if I can just move a little closer on the spectrum, right, I can talk myself into love. I can forgive myself. I can take it easy on myself. I can relax a little bit. And I don't have to sentence myself to being either here or here. Then I can still receive when I feel a little disconnected. I can still tune into myself even when I feel these fear-based thoughts. I can still forgive even though I'm a little afraid. I can still work for my dreams. I can still work on my dreams even though I'm hesitant and I have a hard time believing in myself. I can still believe in love even though I still am experiencing a lot of hurt and I'm still healing, I'm still wounded. And so this opens up opportunities for us to find our way back into alignment, not because we need to rush ourselves away from misalignment, but because the experience of alignment truly can be accessed. It can be accessed, it could be tapped in at any point in the day, not only when you are already aligned, right? The idea that my alignment only alignment generates alignment, that is a false belief. You can generate alignment from a place of misalignment if you allow yourself to hold the space for that, right? Even if you are aligned, you can create more alignment, and that is true. But even if you are misaligned, you can still experience an aligned way to experience your misalignment. And that, my friends, is really going to change the game for you, because that is the way to introduce the dialogue and the feeling, the frequency of self-love back into your system, back into your heart, in the moments where you feel like I cannot possibly speak lovingly to myself. I cannot possibly have those things. It's like, this is not how we operate around here. If alignment is only a spectrum, then it doesn't matter at which point I find myself, I can always access better loving thoughts, better feeling thoughts, better thoughts, the higher vibrational thoughts that I can offer to myself. So I hope this video helps you guys to navigate through your moments, right? And also be really gentle on yourself, because I realized that this is what our journey is about. It's about knowing how to handle and maneuver through these moments where we find it really hard to love ourselves. The lesson is in this. Like it's to really learn to love ourselves in the moments where we feel like this is just really hard. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. It was so nice to have you guys in the conversation today. And if you love more of this kind of content, subscribe and tune in and hit the bell button, like this video for more, and I will be seeing you guys in the next video. See ya.